So now, ladies and gentlemen, live and in colour, it's Mr. Wayne Love Juice.
The other day our producer Louis had a chat with an interesting chappie who said that the YouTube algorithms really aren't that happy if a channel only broadcasts once a week, so we decided we could text ya whenever we've got a piece of news in our new book on the Track Extra.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's John Downs, and this here, if you can see if I point it down, is Lilith Tinkerbell. And welcome to another episode of On the Track Extra. For those of you not aware, I'm the director of the Centre for Fortean Zoology, and Lilith Tinkerbell, once again that's her, is a cat. And On the Track Extra is a show that we do every Wednesday evening at 6:30 for about a quarter of an hour. It's an adjunct, if that's the proper word, to the main show, which is called On the Track, which goes out on Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock for about half an hour. I have a lot of things that I do want to talk about, and an awful lot of interesting things to tell you. Gwyn, for example, is going on at full tilt with her invertebrate zoo, which is now taking over the whole of her little house, and threatens to take over mine when I finally move to Exeter as well. And we've got some very interesting things to tell you about death's head hawk moths. But I think that's probably going to have to wait until next issue. I think that's probably going to have to wait until next episode. First of all, there's something mildly annoying that I want to get off my chest before we go any further. Regular viewers will know that on the last Wednesday of the month, we put out a show called imaginatively the last Wednesday of the month show, in which me and the lovely Vivian Powell, together with our regular panel of Bea McQuillan, Dave Scott and Ian Squibbs, debate, discuss and generally make fun of the latest issues within Fortean Zoology with a plethora of delicious guests. Last month, for the ones of you who, just in case I managed to completely mess up my scheduling, which was the last Wednesday of September, we brought you an interview with a guy called Richard Rossi and a lady called Kelly Tabor, who are the authors of a book called Lucy and the Lake Monster, which is set in and about Lake Champlain on the Canadian United States border. It's a charming children's book, and it is written largely from a Christian perspective, which is something I find quite interesting, because although my personal brand of Christianity is very different to many other people's, I am a Christian, and I have been all my life and will continue to be for the rest of my life. But, first of all, people object to me publicising a children's book. Well, why shouldn't I? This whole show is about exploring the world of Fortean Zoology and the community and the culture that's built up around it, and children's books about lake monsters. And remember, Lake Champlain is a place with one of the most well-known North American lake monsters, is a perfect subject for a children's book, and I defend wholeheartedly our right and ability to cover such subjects. The fact that it has a religious subtext, and the fact that it's a children's novel rather than a piece of non-fiction aimed at adults is completely by the by. Now, I've always been interested in the way that some authors, including me, can blur the boundaries between fiction and non-fiction by writing novels set in real places and featuring at least some of the cast being real people. I did it with my 3 novels, and that is partly because I'm interested in this as a concept, and partly because I'm not very good at inventing characters, and it's much easier to write novels got me, Richard Freeman, and Graham Inglis in them. And my old friend Nick Redfern did similarly with his novel 3 Men Seeking Monsters, which featured me, him, and Richard Freeman again. And I was interested in having somebody on to discuss this genre of fiction, the fictionalized fact. And I'm sure somebody would have called it faction, but that's just an annoying contraction that I will do my best not to use. Because I do my best not to be annoying, although quite often I continue to be so. Now I've completely lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, one of the people who joined in the live chat during our discussion with Richard and Kelly shall remain nameless because I don't want to give them any more publicity, but spent the time trying to be offensive towards our guests and spent their time trying to disrupt the show. They were obviously operating under a pseudonym, I think is probably the best word, and at least me and V knew perfectly well who this person actually was. I do believe in free speech, and I believe in the freedom to say what I want to say, and I also believe in the freedom that when I have somebody on our show or as a guest in my house, because conceptually they're both the same thing, they should be treated with respect and not be the subject of ill-natured and ill-bred sniping. So I totally ignored the comments that this person posted and will continue to do so. I'm actually quite surprised that they haven't started leaving unpleasant comments on the YouTube channel. If they do, these comments will just be removed as soon as I find them. Because I want this show such, and when I did, and when I do again, do the Weird Weekend, I want people who are my guests, either in the show or in person, to feel safe and comfortable. And so, although I will comment on and pass on sensible and interesting comments and questions, things which are just ill-bred snipes, will be ignored and summarily deleted. Anyway, sorry to start off this episode with such a bit of bad vibes, but unfortunately these things do happen, and I would be remiss I would be being remiss in my duty as the presenter of this show and the director of the Centre for Fortean Zoology if I didn't address such things when they do occur. I have been running the Centre for Fortean Zoology now for a third of a century, and I truly never thought 33 years ago, when I was sitting on the shores of Loch Ness smoking an unfeasibly long cigarette and gazing out into the middle distance, that this idea I had about starting an organisation for people who were interested in mystery animals would either take off at all, and certainly not that it would become, in a third of a century's time, what it has become today. Sadly, because the world has got more and more combative and unpleasant, especially with the advent of social media, which has given everybody a forum in which they can, forum's the wrong word, more like a pulpit, in which they can stand and make snide remarks to anybody who wants to listen to them. I have over the years, and the CFZ has in general over the years, fallen out with some people. I've never meant to. I've always done my best to be a jolly little chap who is friends with everybody. But unfortunately it doesn't work out like that all the time. And so there are people that we've fallen out with over the years, and no doubt, as I am probably going to be around for quite a few more years yet running this organisation as ringmaster, people will continue on occasion to fall out with us. Well, I think it was Churchill who said something about you can't please all the people all the time. Well, I'm afraid I know now that that is completely true, even though I have usually tried to. So please forgive me for having taken up this episode of On the Track Extra, explaining why I have been doing what I have been doing, and why I will continue to do this, and why being polite and friendly and, hey, nice to each other is one of the main watchwords of what the CFZ do. So, if you don't like what we do, and you want to start throwing verbal or indeed physical stones at us, why don't you just go away? I was going to tell you all to fuck off and die, but then again I don't want to bugger up the YouTube algorithm by having too many swear words in it, so I wouldn't do anything of the sort.